Pittsburgh Steelers fans, it is Super Bowl Sunday, my favorite day of the year next to Christmas and Arbor Day. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. With me, once again, is my good friend Kevin Smith. KT, it is great to have you here, and you are here for a reason, because it is the greatest day of the year, and you, like me, have a lot of great Super Bowl memories. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Blessed to remember most of these Steelers Super Bowl games.
Absolutely. And not just Steelers Super Bowl games. I want to talk about games that shaped you too, that did not have the black and gold in it. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I got to tell you, this is Tales from 2 a.m. And by now, everybody knows the deal with the show. It's not 2 a.m., but whatever your clock reads, it's got to be 2 a.m. somewhere, right, Kevin?
Yes, sir. We got those good Australian audience, right? It's got to be down there. I have no idea what time it is in Australia.
Actually, it's very close to 2 a.m. And Mark Davison mentioned Mark Davison from Steelers Touchdown Under, who also wrote a great article this week, for his debut article on the site. And there he is. It's 1 a.m. here, and he can't sleep. And he wrote a great article on the site about going to Super Bowls. He has actually been to Super Bowls, and that is something they talked about that on his show yesterday, Touchdown Under as well. So, you know, it's one of those things that everybody looks at this game differently. Big Brosco was on the show last week, and he said, I will not watch the game because Tom Brady's in it. What I want to ask you is, does it matter who's in this game to you?
I mean, it matters in that I always want the Steelers to be in this game.
Absolutely.
And it matters in that I will always find a reason to have a rooting interest, right? Like today, I'm definitely rooting against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. I mean, there's not even a question to me about that. But it doesn't matter who's in it. I will watch the game. The one a couple years ago, the New England against the Rams game, which was a terrible football game, and didn't
awful.
You know, I didn't really have much of a rooting interest. I don't really care about the Rams. I obviously didn't want the Patriots. That's like one of the only games I can remember in my entire life where I don't feel like I was riveted by it, because it's the ultimate. You know, I love watching. It doesn't even really matter what the sport or even the genre is, but like anything at the absolute highest level of competition, you know, that the best in the world doing a thing, whatever the thing might be, I'll watch the Olympics because it's the best in the world. I'll watch the Masters tournament because it's the best in the world. You know, like I was riveted by the Queen's Gambit, even though it was fiction, you know, because like you're talking about, you know, like the competitive mindset of the best in the world at the ultimate level. And that's just an attraction in and of itself for me.
So I got to tell you a story, and this has nothing to do with football, but has everything to do with what you just said. It was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, and it was New Year's Eve, and we had some friends over. And what we did is, I mean, of course, we all have kids, so we're going to have people over a little bit earlier. And we had a big dinner, and everybody was in there eating. I finished up, and I went into the living room, and I was going to find some football on. And the only football on at the time was like Oklahoma State and somebody else, and it was just, you know, not an exciting game. And I'm flipping through, and it says National Collegiate Cornhole Championships. I'm like, I'm going to put this on as a joke. When they walk in, they're going to be laughing because I'm watching cornhole. Well, it got to the point when everybody walked in and they did the initial thing. Ha, 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 you're watching cornhole. Why are you doing that? Next thing you know, everybody, men, women, children, riveted. We were rooting for a brother and sister team from NC State. I remember watching it. It didn't take us long to pick up the rules of cornhole, and it was actually really exciting. And it was the best at the time, and it was so great to watch. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I enjoyed it. So if you ever do get a chance to watch the Cornhole Championships, fantastic.
Yeah, if anything with a competition involved, my son will watch. So, you know, he's 8. So, like, you know, competition is exciting to him no matter what.
Now, the next time I'm getting flack from Richard McKinney. What is wrong with watching Oklahoma State football? I think they were like 6-5 at the time, and it just wasn't riveting to me. But
how many years ago was that?
About 3.
It could have been Mason Rudolph might have been their quarterback.
No, Rudolph was already gone.
Okay.
So I think this was 18. He was already drafted. So there was no James Washington either. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I love football, but I just knew that wasn't going to capture the attention of everybody. And I was probably going to go back to the game because the cornhole thing was a joke. And then it turned out to be a thing that we started watching and we kept watching it.
If you like offense, the Big 12 is fantastic. I mean, defense is just like a rumor in the Big 12, but if you like, some air raid, chucking it around the yard, that's entertaining.
West Virginia is one of the teams that I follow too. So, I mean, I do understand that. But, for some people watching the Super Bowl, as I get back to the big game today, it is kind of, when the Steelers aren't in it, it's kind of like watching a live stream of your ex-wife's wedding. They just can't handle watching it. But for me, I mean, I just love the game. Now, when the Patriots were in it, I have realized this week that it's not Tom Brady that my problem. It was just the fact that it was the Patriots more. I still haven't decided who I'm going to root for in this game, but I could not watch at the end. I would not watch them celebrate. I did watch them celebrate live in Heinz Field. That was enough for me back in 2005, 2004 season. I never watched the Ravens celebrate the Super Bowl. Both times that they won, I could not stomach to watch it, so I would turn it off with 20 seconds left to go. When it was all she wrote, I'm off. I can't do that, Kevin. Are you like me with that?
Yeah, I don't really get that emotionally invested. Usually, Brady touches a nerve for me just because he's been I have the utmost respect for him. He's, probably the best quarterback of all time, but he's just, too much pain that he's inflicted upon us as Steeler fans. So I don't like to see him succeed anymore. He doesn't need to succeed anymore. But I understand the emotion of that. I'll tell you a real quick story. Our high school team was in the state championship in 2019. And we lost to a really good program, and it was on that team's home field. And we had a team loaded with underclassmen. I knew a lot of our guys were going to be back the next year. So in the end, I made us kneel on the field and watch them celebrate and get the trophy. They brought the trophy out and they had a little celebration for it. And I watched them do it, and I just basically said to them, like, this is going to be us next year. This is our goal. And I want you to take it in. I want you to see, what everything that they've worked for is sort of culminates in this moment where you get that trophy. It's symbolic on one hand, but it's just a validation of an incredible amount of work and, everything that they go through together, et cetera, et cetera. And one of our guys came to me. So then we went and had this season, and we got back to the championship game, but then it got canceled with COVID. It was craziness, but whatever. One of our players came to me and said, Coach, that was the cruelest thing you ever did. The cruelest thing you ever did to us was make us watch that, because that was really painful. So for the guys who are involved, it is incredibly important.
But it's motivating too. And it's, it could be cruel. It could be cool, because, this is where you shape your competitiveness going forward in life. And when you see somebody else, getting that brass ring, going and enjoying what they have, and you're like, why not me? So that's definitely a why not me moment. I love that story, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's going to crush you, or it's going to, make you stronger. It's a huge cliche. I understand that. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But it's a Kelly Clarkson song, I believe. But
yes. Wow, extra points if you break out in the song on this show.
That is not going to happen. But I do think that that there's, especially when you're younger and in your formative years for high school kids, I think that has a huge impact. And if you're a professional and you're thinking about things like your legacy, how much would it mean to Ben Roethlisberger's legacy if he were able to come back next year and win a third Super Bowl? The separation point between quarterbacks who have won one or even two, and then you get up into that rarefied air for those who have won three. What is it? How many have won three? Is it four, I think? Bradshaw, Brady, Aikman.
Montana.
at Montana. Is that it? That might be it.
That's
I don't
it.
know if there's any others, right? So you're now talking about, like, if that's the stuff that drives, Brady talks about how that stuff drives. And Michael Jordan in that documentary talked about how he left no slight, that he would never forget any slight. And I loved how, I know we're going to segue into this, but how TJ Watt posted when he got, when he didn't win the Defensive Player of the Year yesterday, and he posted that picture of Jordan on his Twitter. It was fantastic because it tells you, man, he's not going to forget this. He's going to use it as motivation.
Well, that was the very next segue, and that's what we're going to talk about. And so the big elephant in the room, and everybody on the live chat is talking about this, is TJ Watt. TJ did not win Defensive Player of the Year. I was absolutely incensed at first. However, I do realize the greatness of Aaron Donald, and I understand completely. When you look at the stats, TJ Watt has all of the stats except for one, and it's forced fumbles, where it's 4-2 in favor of Aaron Donald. Now, Aaron is an interior player. TJ Watt is not. Is that the reason that Aaron Donald won this, because he plays on the interior, Kevin?
Yeah, I think because he commands so many double teams, and because he's such a disruptive force in multiple facets of the game. He's a run defender as much as he's a pass rusher. I think those edge guys sometimes get pigeonholed as just pass rushers, and maybe, I don't know, maybe if TJ Watt had a bigger impact on the passing game when he's not rushing the passer, like in coverage, like he was able to put up some statistics in terms of passes defense, the interception.
And he did. He had 9.
Okay, well then, I don't know. Then maybe this is Donald's reputation. You mentioned it before. What's this? His third
Yes.
Defensive Player of the Year award. I don't know. I didn't microscope all of Aaron Donald's play, but I did do a film room on him last year when the Steelers played at home, beat the Rams 17-12, and he was just an absolute menace the entire game long. So I don't know. I'm probably not qualified to say who should have won. Obviously, sentimentally, I wish TJ had won. I hear you and Jeffrey Benedict are going to have a little steel cage match to settle this.
There was no venom, but we were going at it on the Slack, and I kind of held off because after a while I'm reading what Jeffrey's writing, and I'm like, yeah, I can't argue with this because I'm not the X's and O's guy like you and Jeffrey are. I got to tell you, but so I kind of laid back, and I understand, and I actually went to bed thinking, all right, I'm going to look at what Jeffrey's saying, and I'm going to understand it more. The only thing that I disagree with him the most on is because I do not think that Donald was head and shoulders over TJ Watt. Winning twice before, and you have somebody that's coming in and getting all the stats, doing everything, looking good doing it, maybe not looking the same as Aaron Donald. They're doing it in a much different way. But if it was a situation where you are up here and everybody else is down here, give it to Aaron Donald every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I understand. But when they're a whole lot closer, and all year long, everybody is saying TJ looks like the Defensive Player of the Year. And it wasn't just in Pittsburgh. It was everywhere. A lot of people were already anointing him, and then all of a sudden, it's a whole lot closer. I saw something the other day where it was 25-24 with some voting in one publication. And it was Donald was one ahead of TJ Watt. So I kind of felt like Donald was going to go ahead and take it, not taking anything away from a first ballot Hall of Famer, which he is going to be. But I remember in basketball years back looking like, oh, Michael Jordan won it again. And there was a reason he won it again, because he was just head and shoulders above everybody else. I just don't think that's the case this year. That is the only reason that I am complaining here.
I wonder about, I don't know anyone who, has a vote in this. I don't know any journalists who do. I wonder if there's anything that comes from the league, and probably not. I'm not trying to be conspiratorial, but like you think about, like, are there considerations beyond the play on the field? Like, are there considerations about, hey, this guy's already won it 2-3 times? The Watts are a huge brand name in the NFL. If you got a toss up in there, let's spread the wealth a little bit. Let's push a new narrative. Let's try to get another conversation involved. I don't know. I wonder if there's ever any I'm not saying guidance from the league, but if it's close, let's push our vote here or there. What do you think about that?
You know what? I was also thinking the same thing. I thought that's something that they would do, but whoever's voting found a reason to go ahead and vote the way of Aaron Donald. I just feel like there's room for another brand name on the defensive side of the ball, not just Aaron Donald. But you know what? I can completely go down a rabbit hole here and turn this into an entire Trent Jordan Watt against Aaron Donald, who I love. Aaron Donald, loved him at Pitt. I follow Pitt football. Just thought it was TJ's turn. I love what you said earlier about TJ. I mean, not being afraid to come out and complain about it. Now, the fact that he's complaining about it, even though he's got a lot of people complaining too, Juju was Cam Hayward, a lot of people were out there, putting the facts down, putting stats down. Of course, his brother's going to stick up for him. Both of them stuck up for him. They put the Michael Jordan memes on. But are voters next year going to look at this and say, all right, TJ's being a big baby?
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder how personally people take these things. I wonder how much their like or dislike of a player as an individual figures in. It's like everything else. In my in my government course that I teach, we talk all the time about the Supreme Court, and their job is to interpret the Constitution in a nonpartisan fashion. But they are people, and as people, they have political opinions and preferences. And how does that not play in? And when you're voting for anything, how does the personality of the individual or your personal feelings about the thing not get in the way of the manner in which you cast your vote? I don't know how it does. If you can be a truly objective person in this, moment in our history or in our society is tough to find. So I don't know. I mean, that said, Aaron Donald and TJ Watt both seem to be really likable people. It's not like you're voting for a villain here. So I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, maybe it just came down to the straight, opinion that Donald had a better season when you looked at everything.
And that very well could be. Steeler Chick 46 thought it was a joke that Gilmore got DPOY last year. Donald, I can live with, and I guess that's the best way to wrap it up. Yeah, I could live with it being Aaron Donald too. I feel that TJ got robbed a little more last year, so we can go ahead and leave it there. But so many other things happened at the NFL honors yesterday. Aaron Rodgers, MVP, no problem with that. There was one that I wanted to bring up before I get into the Hall of Fame vote. And Evgeny Crosby brought this up about Ben getting only one vote for comeback player of the year as a joke. Look, I understand you feel that way. What Ben did coming back this year was great. What Alex Smith did to come back this year was absolutely amazing. And this is an award that a guy that almost died because of a football injury, that's something that I can't. I was sitting there yesterday and I was clapping. And Ben doesn't care about being comeback player of the year. Alex Smith, it would have been a joke if Alex Smith did not win that award.
Yeah, and I think even if the Steelers had continued on, probably the way that they finished the season may have affected some of the people in terms of their vote. Even if the Steelers had continued on and made it to the championship game or whatever, I still think Alex Smith would have won. That story was incredible. I also think, like we were just talking about, are there personal prejudices involved? I do feel like when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger that there are some in terms of the national media, that there are people who remember him early in his career. That's kind of shaped their opinion of him, and they really haven't changed. I mean, I'm constantly surprised when they start talking about the best quarterbacks in the league, and every time they throw out Phillip Rivers' name over Ben Roethlisberger, I just shake my head, and I just, what is that? That has, to me, that's some kind of personal narrative that people have worked up against Roethlisberger. So I'm not saying that that's what happened here. I 100% believe Alex Smith was the right choice there, but I do think there's a little bit of national bias against Ben.
Oh, there definitely is. Ben Roethlisberger will never be the NFL MVP. The closest he can ever get is having an amazing game in a Super Bowl, and I think that is what will turn the tide. If Ben ever gets an opportunity to get back there, gets that third ring, I think they will finally anoint him in the very end. But Ben Roethlisberger is, in my mind, a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I got to tell you, I think that bias might continue, and you might not see him as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Speaking of Hall of Famers, great Hall of Fame news yesterday. If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you have got to be absolutely elated. We're going to talk about that next. If you're a fan of the Steelers and you see one of their greatest rivals of the 70s and the early 80s getting in there as a Hall of Famer, you've got to stand up and applaud too. I am thrilled about this inclusion as well. And we're going to talk about that when we come back right after this on the Steelers Retro Show. Stick around if you are on YouTube or Facebook. If you are on any of our podcast platforms where you download your favorite podcast, just go ahead, download number 2 of Tales from 2 a.m., and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Steelers Tales from 2 a.m. I almost called it the Steelers Retro Show, Kevin. I was all excited because that is, when we're talking about memories, that's the name of the show. But Tales from 2 a.m., another memory show. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Kevin Smith is along with me. It is Super Bowl Sunday. This is my national holiday. Desperately want the black and gold to be in it. There's always a little hole in my heart when they are not playing, but it's still the big game. I'm excited for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. People are asking me who I'm rooting for. I will not know until maybe the first series of the game, because I'm going to see how the atmosphere, how everything grabs me, and how I'm feeling at the time. Because right now, I really don't have hatred for a team. I don't have a love for a team. I have respect on both sides of the ball. So that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Kevin, who are you looking for in this game as far as rooting?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sympathetic towards the Chiefs. I like Andy Reid an awful lot. I live about an hour from Philadelphia, and I mean, I followed Reid for a lot of those years when he was in Philly, and I thought that Philly fans can be tough, just like Steelers fans can be tough. I thought that Reid got beat up when he was in Philadelphia. I mean, he was never able to get over the top and win the big one in Philly. But I always thought that he had a great coach, or he was a great coach. I thought his schemes were really fascinating. I loved studying his stuff. So I'm happy for him, and obviously as a Steeler fan, like I said earlier, I'm not exactly I don't feel like Tom Brady needs to add any more hardware to his mantle.
Absolutely. At this point, it 6, 7, 19 doesn't matter at this point.
Giselle.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Come on.
The supermodel wife that makes more money than you do,
Yeah, I mean,
and you make a lot of money. Yeah. There you go. There is a deal with the devil. I mean, Tom Brady might be 97 years old and made a deal with the devil, and when the devil comes to pay up, it is going to be huge.
Yeah. There's an old story from Old English called Dr. Faustus by Philip, or is it Christopher Marlowe? But anyway, a deal with the devil story where Faustus wants invisibility, and the devil grants it to him, and then he tries to cheat the devil out of it in the end. And whenever I hear that story referenced, I think about Brady.
Yeah, absolutely. Something's going on there. Just like we talk about Danny Smith Jr. and how we used to talk about Daniel McCullers. They have naked pictures of somebody. But I digress. Let's go ahead and talk about more of the NFL honors. The big thing for me, I was really watching for TJ Watt. I really wanted him to get Defensive Player of the Year. But more important for me is the Hall of Fame. I've been to a Hall of Fame induction when John Stallworth got in. That was also the same day that Jim Kelly got in with that inspirational speech. I'm a communications major. Speeches mean the world to me, and I thought that was fantastic. But when John Stallworth was doing his speech, and he said, I would like to thank the fans from Western Pennsylvania. This guy wearing a gray t-shirt that just said Pittsburgh Steelers across the front like they wore in the 70s with eye black and a Steelers helmet stood up and clapped. And on the big screen was your boy, Bryan Anthony Davis, on national television on ESPN clapping for John Stallworth. I cannot find that. If anybody has a old VHS with that on there, I would love to see it because
VHS.
I've looked it up on YouTube and I can't find it. But that's the Hall of Fame is the ultimate. When Donnie Shell went in last year, I mean, that meant more than anything. You knew that eventually Bill Cowher was going to get in, and I thought that was going to be great. Everybody knew Troy Polamalu was getting in. But for Donnie Shell to get in, huge news to me. Waited a long time to see Stallworth and Swan get in. We waited a long time to see Bettis get in, but not as long as some of the others. I am still waiting, and there's two guys right now that we're going to wait a little longer for Hines Ward. He's going to probably get in, but he's probably going to have to wait until year 19 or 20 to get in. They're going to make him wait. The big guy for me, LC Greenwood. Why Hollywood Bags is not in the Hall of Fame, I do not understand. Your thoughts on the continuing to keep him out of it? Is it because there are too many Steelers in the Hall of Fame?
That's what I think. From that team in that era, yes. I think that it's like, you got to prioritize, and you got to, like we were talking about earlier about spreading the wealth. And again, I don't know if this is one of those things where they just say, hey, we got kind of like a priority list, and we're gonna kind of push for the older guys on this priority list. What would make an older player, what would make somebody advocate specifically more for an older player now, in this year as opposed to 5 years from now? I don't know. I mean, it's got to be availability maybe. But I definitely think that the Hall, it feels a little saturated with Steelers from the 70s.
Well, I got to tell you, the reason that it is saturated with those players is because of one man, and he finally got his due yesterday. So I got to tell you, hats off to Bill Nunn Sr. That, to me, is the most important inclusion in this whole thing. He started off with the Pittsburgh Courier, and he was highlighting and this is an official term, his HBCs, historically black colleges. And he would go ahead and scout them and highlight them. He's the reason that you have a guy from Southern University. You have Mel Blount. You have a guy from South Carolina State in Donnie Shell. You've got these guys. You've got Stallworth. Where did Stallworth go to college? Can you tell me?
Alabama A&M.
Yeah, very good. Very good. I stumped Dave Schofield, which was a big deal. For anytime you stump Dave Schofield, you're like, yes. And I stumped Jeff the other day with that very same thing. Yeah, nobody knew who that guy was. So when you look the day after the 1974 draft in the newspaper, they were saying Steelers got a great player at number 1. At number 2, they've got a guy in Lambert that is going to be lucky to be the 5th linebacker on this team. They got a lot of question marks with the rest of their picks. Mike Webster. Yeah, question mark. The question mark around Mike Webster. How did he last until number 5? Question mark around John Stallworth. Why did it take so long for this guy to make the Hall of Fame? Those are the question marks. That was widely regarded as one of the greatest drafts of all time. The 49ers had a couple great ones. I mean, we've had some great drafts, but when you talk about the ultimate draft, it's 1974. This had Bill Nunn's stamp on it completely. In fact, they went to Bill Nunn, and they're like, well, we got Swan now. He's like, no, you've got to take Stallworth. You're probably not going to get him. And then when he's still around at number 4, Bill Nunn's saying, get him. Get Stallworth. You will not regret it. And they're like, okay, we trust you. They went ahead and got Stallworth. The rest is history. They're not winning 4 Super Bowl titles without Bill Nunn. And Bill Nunn Sr., hats off. I'm so glad he is in his rightful place in the Hall of Fame. We lost him in 2014. He's going to be going in posthumously. His son, Bill Nunn Jr., who a lot of people know as Radio Raheem in Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. He also was the male lead with Whoopi Goldberg in Sister Act. He was best friends back in the day with Art Rooney, too. And they would hang out at training camp together. And there's a great story. Art 2 talks about how he and Bill Nunn Jr. took Joe Green's car for a joyride and got in a lot of trouble for it. It's just fun stuff. So Bill Nunn Jr., who we lost about 3 or 4 years ago as well, the NFL made a mistake yesterday when they went ahead and put out the card, the image Hall of Fame. They put Bill Nunn Jr.'s picture on it, and they quickly took it down. But Dave Schofield captured that and put that out, and they did make a mistake there. It was actually quite funny, but they corrected it right away. But for those of you that do not know anything about Bill Nunn Sr., go ahead and read about him. This guy was absolutely amazing. The Rooneys went to him in 1968 and said, "Why don't you come on over? We're reading what you're putting out. You can help our scouting department." He kind of revolutionized the game of football, and he is one of the main reasons that there are 6 trophies on the north side of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. It's incredible when you think about that 70s team. So it starts with Joe Green, right, who they get out of North Texas State. Then it's Terry Bradshaw out of Louisiana Tech. Then it's the 74 draft where you get, a bunch of guys from the HBCs. You get Lambert out of Kent State. They're doing an amazing job finding talent out of, what today we would call these non-Power 5 schools. That tradition's even continued a little bit. Roethlisberger's Miami, Ohio, Antonio Brown's Central Michigan. The Steelers have always seemed to put a lot of emphasis on, kind of looking where maybe some other teams aren't directing their focus. And obviously it's paid off for them.
And I got to tell you, one of the things that you got to look at that you don't really think about when you think of Bill Nunn, you think of the historically black colleges and those players from there. But he also was instrumental in picking Jack Lambert. Now, Jack Lambert is still a little bit upset that he wasn't picked number 1 over Lynn Swann in that draft, but an amazing draft. And I gotta look at the live chat here, and I see a name of an old friend who I've never seen in the live chat before, and I'm gonna bring his name up on the board here. Agreeing, my good friend Bob Lohr says, "I agree that it definitely was the best draft ever. 1974 definitely was." I want to talk about the 70s. And I want to talk about the Super Bowl. But before I get into that, I need to talk about the jersey that I'm wearing today. And I tell you what, I got props from my friend Kevin Smith here saying that anybody that owns a lineman jersey has his respect. You can't see it there, so I'll just go ahead and do this. Number 66, Alan Faneca. About damn time that this guy got in, Kevin.
Yeah, I told Brian before the show that that's a true fan. When you got a lineman jersey on, that's a true fan right there. But yeah, and who threw it up? Was it Dave? Somebody put up something that showed Faneca, like, "Congratulations, Hall of Famer Alan Faneca," and he was in his Cardinals jersey.
I did that.
Oh, was that you?
Yeah, they did one for the Steelers too. The Jets, I guess, ignored it. The Jets didn't really put anything out. But I get it. The Cardinals are trying to, like, hey, we gotta go ahead and jump on this bandwagon too. So they don't have many Hall of Famers. So yeah, I thought that was funny, so I put that one out. I'm like, hey, it's great that this guy from the Cardinals got in.
Yeah, Alan Faneca, when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's a guy who is, you could just, like, kind of put on film of him. And, if you said, like, hey, what are the Pittsburgh Steelers all about? You put on Alan Faneca's tape, roll that tape. He was just so physical and athletic for a guy as strong as he was, and a no-nonsense guy. I think when we look at the current Steelers team, there's a lot of people, whether for kind of like nostalgic reasons or, purely football reasons that look at the way the Steelers operated when, their identity was taken from guys like Faneca and Casey Hampton, and say, we got to get back to being that team. We got to get our offensive linemen out of these 2-point stances, get their hand in the ground, get them off the ball, move some people up front, not go back to the 1970s, or in Faneca's case, the 90s and early 2000s, where football emanates through the run, but establish that mindset as a football team again. We got to be tougher and more physical. And I think that Faneca in recent memory is probably the epitome of that for the Steelers. Absolutely.
And he was the original Big Al. We used to call him Big Al back in the day. And now we've got another Big Al in Al Villanueva. And those are my 2 jerseys that I have of linemen. I've got both Big Als. So this is the one I'm most proud of. Man, the Hall of Fame ceremony this year is going to be off the hook. I hope that we have an opportunity as fans to be able to enjoy this, because you've got Bill, you've got Donnie, you've got Troy, you've got Alan, and posthumously, you've got Bill Nunn. It is going to be black and gold like crazy. Now, there's 2 other guys that are going to be in there. So the Steelers will most likely be playing the Hall of Fame game against the Cowboys, since they did not get a chance to play it. I think that was said that that's going to be a given. If they go ahead and play that game, there's a lot of Cowboys in there. There's a guy named Cliff Harris that went in last year. And I do that. I'm looking for more of a smile, because the first time I ever met Kevin Smith was because of his moniker on BTSC when he was writing was Cliff Harris is still a punk. And we're going to talk about that game in just a minute. So Cliff's going in. There are going to be other Cowboys going in. Drew Pearson got in yesterday. That's another guy. It's about time. Drew Pearson, everything that he's done to get in, it is great that he's finally in. Another guy that will get in, if you remember way back, like you and I do, Kevin, Tom Flores, the first Latino quarterback in the league, the first Latino coach, a guy that won 2 Super Bowls. He's 83 years old. He gets to go in. He gets to enjoy going in. And I think this was one guy that was overlooked for a long time in Tom Flores. As a Steeler fan, didn't like him because he was a Raider. Yeah. But when I stand back and I go up into the press box and I look at a 30,000-foot view, I look down and I see what Tom Flores has accomplished. Hats off. I am so glad to see him in. Thoughts on Flores and Pearson?
Well, Coors Light has launched the can. Maybe they got Tom Flores in. I don't know. That was a very interesting campaign, wasn't it?
I think it's great.
Yeah. So Pearson, I'll tell you a quick story about. I had a buddy growing up, my friend Dave, who was a heck of a football player. He went to Lafayette College. He broke a lot of their records as a wide receiver. He wound up getting a free agent tryout with the Eagles. Loved Drew Pearson. He was most of my friends growing up as a little kid were Steeler fans because they were the best team and we were little kids and we were bandwagoners, and it just stuck with me and with most of them. He was a Cowboy fan, Dave, and whenever we would play football at the ballpark or wherever we would play, he would wear that Drew Pearson jersey, that 88 jersey, and me and my buddy Ed, we would always be like, the coolest position to play with was free safety. You'd lock up, everybody would lock up man to man, and then the extra guy who would be locked up on the quarterback would go play free safety. And me and my buddy Ed would trade off playing free safety, and every time Dave would wear that Drew Pearson jersey, we would say, "I'm gonna knock out Drew Pearson." That was our big thing. Like, if we get a shot on Dave. Love you, Dave. You're one of our good friends, man. But you're wearing a Drew Pearson Cowboys jersey, and we're gonna freaking come try to decapitate you. So that was.
I love it.
Yeah.
So speaking of taking a cowboy out, we mentioned it earlier. I got to talk about your greatest Super Bowl memories. Is Jack Lambert versus Cliff Harris and Roy Gerela in the background? Is that one of the greatest Super Bowl memories that you have?
I mean, that's the moment I became a Steelers fan, I can still see the scene, and it was however 40 some years ago, at my grandparents' house. And everybody's in the, it's the 1970s and it's like orange shag carpet and brown paneling on the walls. And we're all crammed in there watching the Super Bowl. And my uncle's in there. And I remember my uncle saying, he was a big Eagles fan, my uncle. And he's like, we'll never root for the Cowboys. We're rooting for the Steelers. And I was, little and impressionable. And I was like, oh, all right, let's root for the Steelers. And then there's, that moment where Lambert takes Cliff Harris and slams him to the ground after Cliff Harris taunts the kicker. And my uncle was probably very impressionable in my life, at that time. I'm named after him. This is my Uncle Kevin. And he's yelling, who taunts a kicker? Who taunts a kicker? And, Lambert throwing him to the ground and standing over him. And it was like a superhero moment, he was like Batman. And so years later when, BTSC, when I became aware of it and I had to create my own, screen name or whatever, I was like, I don't know. I had no idea really what I wanted to do. And so I thought, all right, what really for me is the essence of being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan? I went back to that moment and came up with Cliff Harris is still a punk. So I'll call him a punk till the day I die. But I actually hear he's a decent dude. So I can't really personally feel that way about him.
He absolutely is, but when I read your name for the first time, I had no clue who you were. It was probably 2 or 3 years before I finally met you, but I knew right then when I read that you were my friend. I'm like, this guy's awesome. I love it. So I know we're getting short on time here. Top Super Bowl memory besides that one of the Steelers, and top Super Bowl memory of all time for you that does not include the Steelers.
Well, the Antoine Randall L to Hines Ward reverse pass that pretty much put Super Bowl 40 away was maybe the most satisfying moment, because that was finally the moment when you knew they were going to win the Super Bowl after a 26-year drought. You and I were little kids when they won those 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. But then, I mean, think about it. When are the years where your favorite football team is like the most important to you? It's probably like when you're in high school and when you're in college, when you're in your teens and in your 20s and you're just so passionate about it. And that's when the Steelers were at their worst for us, or at least they're least successful in terms of Super Bowls. So that 26-year stretch from being a little kid in the 70s to Super Bowl 40 was a long stretch. And that was a nerve-wracking Super Bowl because the Steelers, Roethlisberger and specifically, played terribly. And they could never get any separation. And it's 14-10 in the fourth quarter, and you're still holding your breath. And they hit that reverse pass and just Hines Ward gleefully leaping into the end zone. Remember the cover Sports Illustrated where he's like kind of extending the ball out and he's
got
a big smile on his face. Yeah. And that was like, like when I just felt to myself like, oh my God, they're going to win the Super Bowl,
And I could still hear Bill Hillgrove. And this place is a Steelers maniac haven.
Yeah.
And after that play, I had a pen that had four memories of you hit the button and it would play those sound bites, and that was one of them. And the pen died because I played it so much. I bought 2 of them and they both died. And now I would do anything to find that pen again. I bet you if I look on eBay, I can probably find one and pay about $40 for it. But I got to get that pen back.
My buddy's got a ringtone on his phone. Every time he gets a text message, it plays the soundbite where John Belushi in the movie Animal House screams out "food fight." So every single time that he gets a text message, that would be a cool thing. Every time that you or the old when Franco Harris catches the pass in the Immaculate Reception, the call.
Absolutely. So that is so great. So you had so many Super Bowls without the Steelers in it. Is there one that sticks out that was really satisfying, even though it wasn't black and gold?
Yeah, I mean, personally, all my closest friends, now in my life, they're all Eagles fans. And my college roommate, who I've known since 1988, a lot of my relatives, people I work with, I mean, they're all, I live in South Jersey, it's Eagles country. They're Eagles fans. And Eagles fans, they're passionate and they have suffered for a long, long time. And to see them win against the Patriots a few years back in 2017 with Nick Foles at quarterback, not the guy that you would think would be able to knock off Tom Brady, but just the way they played that game. I mean, the Eagles played that game like they got nothing to lose, and sometimes you get into the big game and you're afraid to make a mistake and you play it tight to the vest, especially when it's a close game. I mean, they played it just, all their cards on the table. That video clip when Foles comes to the sideline and they're going to run a 2-point play. And Peterson says to him, Doug Peterson, the head coach, says to him, what do you like? And Foles is like, what do you think about Philly special? And Peterson gives it like 2 seconds thought, and he's like, yeah, why not? That's how they get to Philly special. Not because we've really schemed for this moment and we got him set up perfectly. But Foles threw it out there and Pearson was like, let's go for it. And they hit now what's like kind of like one of the most iconic Super Bowl plays, the Philly special. So I was really happy for my friends. I'm no Eagles fan, but like my friends were so happy after that. It was like the relief of the entire, their entire lives for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. Now that said, that within 2 years they went back to being miserable, and now they all hate like Carson Wentz now, and they're miserable. But they had a moment. I was happy for their moment.
Yeah, the great moments. For me, there's a bunch of them. There's John Elway in the helicopter. There's got to be. You got to talk about Joe Montana beating the Bengals twice. Got to love that. I'm not a Niners fan, but that was huge for me. Jeff Hostetler, who's from Johnstown, where I'm from, beating with the whole wide right and beating the Bills in that Super Bowl in the landscape of what was the Persian Gulf War. There's so many great memories. Janet Jackson's nipple, all those things. There's anything could happen on Super Bowl Sunday, whether the black and gold's in it. I love it. I'm there. I can't wait for this game. So thank you so much for your time, Kevin Smith. I appreciate it. We're going to let you get on out of here. It has been great talking about Steelers and Super Bowl memories, and we could talk about that forever.
Yes, sir. Me. Thanks for having me on. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy.
All right.
Good eating today, man. It's a Super Bowl of eating as well today, Brian.
Oh, I'm making my famous chili. Award-winning, 4-time People's Choice Champion chili there.
Sweet. Okay. I got pulled pork going. So.
Oh, nice, nice. Really good. So great. Whatever you're eating, whatever you're doing, enjoy the Super Bowl. It comes once a year. It's going to be different this year. It's going to be odd this year but the NFL is going to do what they can do to make this an event once again. So I can't wait. For Kevin Smith, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Look at the clock. It's 2 a.m. somewhere. And I got to tell you, just do me a favor. Be safe, be true to yourself, and always be behind the steel curtain. We'll see you.